Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Tuesday, the 8th of October. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning for the first time this week by Stevie Clifford. How's it going, Stevie?
I'm all right, mate. I hope everybody is well. It's Tuesday after all, so it's a bit dreek. It's a bit miserable outside, Derek, so it's not great.
Yep, we're in the midst of October now, and also in the midst of the international break. You can see it far enough, that's for sure. There's another one, incidentally, folks, about this time next month as well. So, the excitement very much building ahead of the internationals. Not many people, I'm sure, but we're here to talk all things at Rangers. Lots to talk about still, despite no action on the immediate horizon. First of all, Stevie, I've not spoke to you since the win over St Johnstone on Sunday. What did you make of it?
It was fine. It wasn't, mind blowing or anything. But after a European game during the week, it was okay. I would have liked to have seen more goals and more tempo, a bit more attacking and stuff. Yeah, but it was fairly routine, wasn't it? And it was no real stress. It was no real hassle. So, job done. And very much no frills victory. So we'll take that and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's talk. I mean, Václav Cerny was speaking to the press after the game. It was part of the embargoed section, so it was released yesterday afternoon. And a very honest interview. I've seen some of the reaction on social media and praising Václav for his honesty. And he was been speaking about his recent struggles at Ibrox. It's fair to say he's not been in the best of forms prior to his 2 goals against St Johnstone. He's been speaking about his conversations with Philippe Clement and all in between as well. This is what he had to say just about a bit of a reaction, of course, to the fans in the previous 2 games prior to that game against St Johnstone.
It's been tough. For someone like me who is to give my all, and sometimes I show it too much, as we all saw, but that's just me, because I want to do as best as I can every single time. And once you guys get to know me a bit better, you will see that. And this was my bad reaction. It's all right. It's in the past, but it's because I want to help as much as I can.
That was Václav Cerny. I'll read you some of his other quotes shortly, folks. But Stevie, what did you make of his press conference? I quite enjoyed it. Here's a guy, he was hurting after that miss against Lyon in particular, says he was waking up in the middle of the night, running through that miss in his head. But I thought it was interesting hearing from sort of Václav. I mean, sometimes it's easy to forget that footballers are human beings as well. They've got the feelings like me, you, and everyone else, and things can affect them on the football field. What did you make of it?
It was real, Derek. I liked it. It was honest. It wasn't the pre-scripted, I'm disappointed, we'll go again kind of stuff. It was a raw, honest insight into him as a person, and what he's like, and I really enjoyed it. I had a nice wee kind of couple of questions with him, and he opened up a wee bit. So I would much rather have that than have, the kind of scripted robotic responses that you normally get. That was a real insight into him, and show what good for him for kind of opening up a wee bit. And listen, he hasn't had the greatest of starts. He showed flashes. He needs to probably bring it a bit more. He needs to be a wee bit more consistent. I think we know that. I think everyone's aware of that. He certainly doesn't shy away from it. And I must admit, Derek had a wee chuckle when he said, it's 3 goals, but it should have been 6.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if others were as honest as him? Cyril Dessers, I scored 22, but it should have been 47. You know what I mean? But I like the honesty about it. I like the fact that he owned it and he kind of opened up that wee bit, and it gave us an insight into what he's like. He just wants to do well, which is great. And hopefully it begins to kind of transform into what we see on the pitch. But as far as him as a person, as a guy, approachable and interviewing and stuff like that, he's been great so far. So, yep, he certainly won that that I think the supporters will rally behind because they've seen a wee bit of insight into him.
Yeah.
It's just a matter now of him kind of bringing that in the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah. Chris says he was okay on Sunday night, Stevie. Would you go along with that? We still need to see more from him, do we not? I mean, the 2 goals he took were very well taken, especially the first. That's what he's all about. That's the quality that he has in his disposal. But like you say, I think it's more seeing it on a consistent basis. He looks like someone like wingers. They play on confidence, and he was someone prior to this St Johnstone game that looked like he was devoid of that.
He's had 10 shots this season and he scored 3 of them. So he's got just over a kind of 1 in 3 rating. And if that's him doing okay from that point of view, then I'm quite happy with that. Does he need to bring more when he's on the ball and off the ball? Yeah, on Sunday, I think he won 1 out of 5 duels. So maybe that tells you he needs to give a wee bit more. But he did get 6 recoveries on trackbacks and things like that as well. So he's a bit of a mixed bag from Sunday night. Overall, I thought he was fine. Yeah, I mean, scored a couple of really good goals. He was always available. I liked how he embraced Philip Clement, and he spoke about, the bit after with Clement and things like that, and how he supported him. So yeah, I liked it. I mean, does he need to bring? I think that everybody needs to bring more, Derek. I think everybody does. So is it just a backlap Cerny thing? I'm not so sure it is. So as I said, I like the fact that he at least is sitting and owning it and trying to bring more, and he wants to bring more. So I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that I think that I like him, but I'm not sure if I like him just because he's out there and he's a naturally right-sided player, and I want him to do well because we've been so lacking on that right-hand side for so long that naturally when one comes along, you're like, right, he's going to be good, and I want him to be good. But I do have a bit of a kind of soft spot for him, so I'm wanting him to do well, and purely, probably just because we've lacked it for so long, Derek, if that makes sense. So it would be really handy for us if he kind of kicked on and kept getting those numbers and had a good loan spell with us, because ultimately that's going to benefit us. But yeah, I mean, could he do more? I think they all could do more, couldn't they? So it's quite simple that at least he's popping up a couple of goals and stuff. He just needs to build on it.
Yeah. On those chats with Clement, he said, yeah, we had a long talk and he helped me a lot. I'm not going to deny that. For me, it's all about giving this trust he has in me back, but also back to the guys, because in the past weeks, I've missed big chances. I still try to play my best game I can to give it to the team, but obviously I'm here to be decisive, assist goals, and I know that, and it's been tough for me. I think it's the best answer possible, so appreciation from my side for the trust and everything from the gaffer, and let's go from here. So, yep, you can go and read everything that you had to say over on the Rangers Review website, folks. Joshua's also got a great analysis piece on him there. He's analysed his performances against Hibs and St Johnstone and how that differs. The link is in the description below this video, so do go and check it out. The other big talking point, of course, Stevie, was the return of Yanis Hadji on Sunday. He will be banned, came out after the video yesterday, he will be banned for 2 matches. So he will miss the games against Kilmarnock and St Mirren. And of course, the match against Estoya, FCSB, as they're known in the Europa League, sandwiched in between. He'll miss that as well, as he's not named in the European squad. So the next available game he could be back for will be that mouth-watering trip up to Pittodrie to take on Aberdeen at the end of the month. Really unfortunate for Yanis, isn't it, Stevie? Because I thought he did well when he came on, given he's not been part of the first team for quite a considerable amount of time. Set up Cerny for his second goal. He actually took to Instagram with a picture and saying that Ibrox, thank you, I will forever be grateful for last night's reception. Yanis Hadji, discuss.
It was all like, I don't know. It's a pretty average performance, Derek. He didn't really show us anything that we didn't know already. He had a nice pass, he had a nice assist, which was a very nice moment. Aside of that, he was on the edge of the game. silly tackle. It was a straight red, deservedly. Thought it was a really poor decision actually by Dickinson, because on first viewing from the gantry it looked like a really bad one. So for him to be kind of 5-10 yards away and still get a yellow and then have to correct it, I thought was poor. From that kind of thing, it was a very straightforward decision. He's off balance. It was actually reminding me a wee bit of Bruno Fernandes for Man United against Tottenham. The way he was kind of half falling at the time, and he tries to do that. He doesn't need to do it. It's such a silly thing to do, but he was fine. You know, if we're saying that Cerny was okay and Cerny popped up with 2 goals, then Yanis Hadji isn't on that same moment. He had a good assist, yeah, but on the rest of it, he was very much on the kind of periphery of the game, and he didn't really kick on Derek and kind of get involved. But it's difficult in a game like that because Rangers were so in control and they were very much in second gear for the whole game, and there was no real tempo to the performance. St Johnstone were quite happy just to kind of avoid another drubbing. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And they didn't really push on. They had one ball which they tried, which John Souttar kind of handled the whole game pretty well. But, you know, was I overly impressed by Yanis Hadji? I'm not so sure that, you know, the reception he was given and the welcome, I think maybe people have distorted their opinion on him because he's not been around a wee bit. So he's certainly a fan's favourite, but, you know, I'm not sure I overly see what other people are kind of talking about, you know, him being the answer and him being this, him being that. I've got a long way to be convinced that Yanis Hadji will make a massive impact on this Rangers team.
I'm pleased he's back in contention. All the same, it is good to have another option available to the manager. I don't think he's blessed with options in the final third. So
yeah, but I think I can agree with that and say I would agree with that. But you know, I'm not going to go over the top yet on anyone. You know, it was like last night. Derek was asked a question. Rangers have got 8 clean sheets in 13 this season, but they've conceded to Kiev, Lyon, Celtic and Motherwell. Kiev twice, obviously. And the question was, are we giving the defence a hard time? And my answer to that was no. Until the defence really prove it in the big games that matter. So you're coming away to Kilmarnock, you're going away to Aberdeen, you're going away to Olympiacos, Nice, you know, etc., etc. See, until we start kind of notching the clean sheets and things in the really biggest games, then you can praise the defence. And I think I'm kind of there with the rest of the team. I've spoke a lot about kind of Cyril Dessers being able to do it consistently in the very biggest games. And he's went completely off the boil the last 3 or 4 games. He's doing the old De Boer thing where he's either, you know, sugar or he's the other thing. So I'm like that. I think I'm like that with, you know, the majority of them at the moment, Derek, where they're doing fine and it's all pretty straightforward victories, which they should be doing. It's until they really get to the really difficult ones and the tricky ones that will start going, right, okay, that's them coming through the proper test. And I think Yanis Hadji, for me, a bit like Cerny, a bit like, you know, a couple other ones, these are the games where they really need to prove it before they'll start going, right, okay, yep, now I can see something I can get behind.
Yeah, you're expected to beat teams, no disrespect to St Johnstone and likes of Ross County and what have you. So, incidentally, St Johnstone should have scored against Rangers at Ibrox on Sunday. They passed up a real glorious opportunity when the boy hit Jack Butland as opposed to squaring it. So, like you, Steve, it's a big games. It's a big games. It's Philip Clement has to win, I think, to really win over a section of the Rangers fan base. I think Malmo aside, you're scratching your head at the other big game that you has won Betis last season. We need to see more wins against teams at the top end. So Celtic and the likes, and in Europe as well, would like to see that. Also, now, given we are in the international break, we'll invite, if you want to get your questions over to myself and Stevie, please do. There are a couple that have popped up already that have caught my eye. Now, we've seen on Sunday, Stevie, the manager, bringing on Nana at right back, and James Tavernier wasn't taken off. He was pushed up one, and shaking your head already. Jim McKerrow with the point says, good morning all, just wondering, after such a promising start at right back by Cash and Wiro, where does this leave Sterling for a settled position? Sterling came on as well, of course, right wing again, didn't he? But how does the manager sort this out, Stevie?
Just play your best player, which isn't James Tavernier at this moment in time. It's tiresome, Derek. Even I watched Tav, who was taking a throw-in at the time when the subs were going up and he was to get moved forward, and Nico Raskin and things were laughing at him, saying, "I only go up, you go forward." How about you just rest the guy, and give him a break, take him off. He didn't even need to play on Sunday. He could easily have went without James Tavernier. And I'm not going to sit and slate him and be disrespectful and say that he offered nothing on Sunday night. But the fact is, you wouldn't have missed him. He didn't overly affect the game, and he didn't have any mistakes, but he didn't influence it going forward or anything. So if he wasn't there, you weren't overly going to miss him. And Philip Clement, this is where it slightly irks me with stuff that he says, because he went on in the summer about how we weren't going to overplay these guys and everything else. James Tavernier's started every single game and played almost every single minute. I think he said 10 minutes here and there, but come on. Like, the guy's 33, I think, if I'm right. And he's clearly struggling for form, and he's clearly, could do with a rest here and there. Take him out of the team and give him a rest. How do you deal with Casaverso being most likely the best right back at the moment? You play him. As for Dujon Sterling, you get him fit enough where he's playing 3, 5, 6, 7 games without picking up wee knocks and being out for 3. That's where he needs to focus on, and becoming that kind of finding the form that he found last season and being that kind of powerhouse for us, which he's not kind of clicked into yet. So where does it leave Sterling? It leaves Sterling battling. Where does it leave Casaverso? Keep pushing on. Every time the boys come on at right back, Derek, he's looked solid enough. Yep. In fact, arguably, with his shot in the last couple of minutes, he had more going forward than James Tavernier did on Sunday. And I'm not saying, again, for that reason, he's suddenly better than Tab. But what I'm saying is, in a game like that at home to St Johnstone, just rest him. Like, it's not difficult. You're kind of making a mockery of stuff that you've already said in the summer, Derek, and that's my biggest issue with it.
Yeah, I want to see more at Casaverso as well. He has looked sound at right back, but it's a big call, of course, from the manager, and he doesn't look like he's going to change that at this moment in time.
You might actually get more out of James Tavernier if you gave him a break every now and then.
He did say he would do that. Yeah.
Well, he did, but he's not.
I know. Yep. So, and I don't see him resting him for the match. I mean, we come back and go to Rugby Park immediately after the international break. He's not resting him there. It remains to be seen. I want to see Casaverso get more game time. I like the look of him. I've seen a little of him now. Thought he was brilliant in Malmo. And, he has looked sound whenever he's came on as a substitute. Incidentally, Tavernier is 33 on Halloween. So there you go. Just about to turn 33 years of age. You touched on it there about Dessers, Stevie. Blue Nose John gets in touch. He says, definitely need a proper goal poacher in January. Big Serial's not in a good run of form at this moment in time. He's struggling, it's fair to say. I do reckon we will start finding the back of the net soon. However, again, I touched on this yesterday. Rangers are over-reliant on them once again. I don't understand why they never went out and strengthened in the striking position. We knew that Danilo, of course, was coming back from a lengthy injury. He's had that setback. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he's back in training by the end of the international break. Even if they brought in a short-term signing up until January just to tide you over. What do you make of the striking situation? How big of a concern is it?
Well, the biggest issue is you probably couldn't have carried Dessers, Danilo and Cerny and Eagleman. I don't think you could have done that. So for one position, especially one position where Dessers kind of dominates the time. The problem with Dessers is, Derek, and here's the truth of the matter. When he's decent, we can all get by because he's okay and he's fine. When he's going through a couple of games like he is now, he's pretty much hopeless to what you want up front. And he starts to get affected by his own performance because he starts to moan about every time anyone's near him, he's getting touched. Every time somebody kind of pressures him a wee bit, he's looking for a foul. He's not holding up the ball. He's not dominating positionally, and you've seen it against Leon. The amount of times Rangers defenders would clear it, he's not in the right positions. And then his press is half-hearted. And I just think that when he's like that, I think it's detrimental to the whole team because nothing sticks, nothing comes back. Can Danilo come back and show any level of fitness and start games and dominate defenders and finish? I'm not sure, because I would love to think so, because I've got a lot of time for Danny. I really would love to think so. But history's shown us that maybe we can't rely on him. How long is it going to take him to get up to speed? We're going to have to nurture him back with games and things again. So we're basically back to the start with him. You would hope that a couple of weeks of training in the international break, because he is back in, so we'll give him that. And then there's Eagleman, who we know is promising, but is miles away from being a starter or anywhere what we need. He looks quite rough and ready. It might take him a season to kind of settle down, and or it might be a case where he gets one and he kicks on. You just never know. But Cyril, it's as Ronald de Boer says, you're either a 7 or an 8 with Cyril, or you're a 2 or a 3. And there's not really an in-between. He doesn't really ever do okay, and you're like, fine, that was an okay performance, held up the ball and stuff. He's either good or he isn't. At the moment, the last couple of games, he hasn't been. So are we over-relying on him? I don't know. I mean, are we over-reliant on Jack Butland? They're there to do a job, aren't they? Like your
Hamza Egeman is very much a guy learning the ropes at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think that's completely
think it's going to come on. It's almost like for like. Well, you're wanting say like for like. Dessers isn't in form at the moment, but Hamza Egeman very much in the developmental stage at this moment in time.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. You're looking, you are pinning your hopes on Danilo, aren't you, a wee bit? So
yeah,
whether or not he can do it, Dessers, people got to remember, when Dessers was brought here, he wasn't brought to be first choice striker. So he's brought to kind of compete, and he's been forced upon that position and that kind of status. And fair play to him, he's always available. He's very robust. He's got a decent enough attitude, and he speaks well. But all round, is he really good enough to be our 9? I don't think I'll ever be convinced, Derek. So, and I've said that consistently. When he's good, and you're enjoying that, and he'll score goals, and he'll still get 20 odd goals this season, which is fine. But it's in the games where he's not in front of goal, he's not offering enough to the team out with it, and that's where I am with Dessers. So.
Yeah, it's a few interesting points off the back of that. Bill Story says we have nobody that puts the opposition centre-back under pressure and controls our attacking options. And a point here from the GS56 says Dessers will score against St Mirren, not Kilmarnock or Aberdeen. He's not consistent enough. So there you go. Stephen with the point as well says, like a new striker in January, put Danilo out on loan to get his fitness up. Egeman looked like he's going to need this season to adapt to Scottish football. Yeah, I would like to see Rangers bring in another striker in January. What about the issue about wingers, Stevie? The manager did say in his press conference that Oscar Cortez is long-term. I don't expect to see him any time soon. Rabbi Matondo's posted on his Instagram with the message soon, but he's another one that's been plagued by injury. I'm not hanging my hat on him coming back, staying clear of injury. And going on a consistent run of games, performing for Rangers over on that left-hand side. Do Rangers need to bring in a winger in January, do you reckon? Or wingers?
A winger, a striker, a central midfielder, maybe a centre-back. The list is never ending.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you prioritise first? Personally, I think you need a 6. The way that we're playing, how we play under Clement, spoke to him a lot about his structure and being wide open on the break and stuff. I spoke about that with Clement last week. Is that because he doesn't have that dedicated number 6 that he wants and is a priority? So for me, I'm a 6 first. If Danilo was to get a good loan option where he could play for 6 months, maybe. But, what you really need is the once in a kind of decade signing like Jermaine Defoe, where You've got a guy that's quite happy in his twilight of the year just to come on and bang them in when we need them. And he would have had plenty of game time. And I don't think we realised just how good we had it when it was Morelos, Roof, Itten, and Defoe up there. You had plenty of options. So that's the kind of player you probably need in for 6 months. You know, a kind of Defoe-esque player, but they're a one in a generation kind of thing.
There's a few experienced campaigns that were free agents that I think Rangers should have been looking at. Just my
but
opinion.
it's different from saying we should have been looking at them to are they actually interested in coming to Rangers, where there's
sure would be,
very little potential to play in Champions League and stuff like that. So I don't know. Sometimes it's easier for us to say, and then financially, and are they interested in things and blah blah blah. So I would have used the free market a wee bit more, absolutely, but it is what it is. I think that there's so many, again in January, there's so many positions at the moment where you would look to get somebody. Would you get a 6, a winger, a striker? That would be your ideal kind of window. Who would go out? I don't know. But in 2 months' time, the situation might be a lot brighter, and you're saying, well, I don't really need this one. We could get this, we could get that. So, at Rangers, you're only really as good as your last game, and things can change on your next one. So at the moment, Derek, I'd still think a 6 is probably my priority and where we are. Wingers, we've got a few of them. It's whether or not they're actually the best quality is where we are. Cortez is just a bit of a nightmare. The reason I asked him that and was it more long term is because that's what the rumours have been the last couple of weeks, haven't they? That he's taken a bad one, and that's why Yanis Hadji's back in and stuff like that. So, but what's long term for Philip Clement? Long term for Philip Clement could be 4 weeks. We don't actually know what he terms as long term. So he's not exactly the bastion of truth when it comes to injuries and things like that. So he does play it kind of hard and loose a wee bit, doesn't he? So we'll just need to wait and see what he says.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to put a time scale on it. I mean, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 4 months. We've got no idea at this moment in time. But
more likely to be 4 years, known as.
It's not good. I mean, a lot of fans now saying, why have they sort of shelved somewhere in the region of £4 million for this guy, Stevie? Looking back on it, saying that's a move that the club may regret.
Oh, aye. I mean, but how can you legislate for a guy playing the first game of the season, falling over and getting a sore knee for 4 weeks and then coming back in training and getting rattled and now faces a spell out? It's all right saying, he's made like a rich tea biscuit and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. But when you come back from injuries, it's difficult. I said that about, kind of Tom Lawrence was out for the best part and then ended up picking up so many knocks afterwards. It's taken him more or less a whole year to get up to speed, and there's Tom Lawrence injured again. So it's just, I don't know, mate.
Never-ending story, isn't it?
There's no real answer to it. Would I have fared the way it worked out? Hindsight's a lovely thing, but what happens if Oscar Cortez comes back and hits a lovely run of form and then proves why we've nailed him down on that deal? It's just, as I said, everything at Rangers can change very quickly. You're only as good as your last game. Cortez has had a bit of an unfortunate run. We need to get him back properly playing, fit and well, and then we can make a proper judgment on it. But I think it's quite harsh of the boy, just to say he's got injured in training, let's just send him back. It's a bit, it's a bit unfair.
Basmataz with a point says, is it a sports science issue? Are we treating these guys correctly? Well, the manager was quizzed on the medical side of things in the summertime, and Chris sat down with him. He says there was a lot of changes afoot, and and things would be improving with regards to that side of things. But unfortunately, at this moment in time, I mean, it seems like the same old, given the injury situation in the last couple of years and now. So one can only hope it can clear up. But those questions will arise with the amount of players that Rangers do have out injured, and not just injured, long-term injured as well. Is a depressing state of affairs. There's no two ways about it. So, like you, Stevie, I'm hoping to see Cortez back and soon and firing. I think the glimpses we've seen last season, we could see there is a player there. But it's no use if he's sitting up in the stand and unable to contribute on the pitch. So, yeah, when we see him back in the Rangers jersey, who knows? But we'll wrap up there. Big thanks to Stevie for joining us as ever. And thank you to you all for tuning in. Just a heads up. Those of you that are heading down to London for the live show, myself and Joshua and Mark Haitley next week, tickets still available. They are fast running out, though. You can get your tickets. There is a link below this video, so click on that if you fancy that event a week tomorrow, which should be good. But when you back on, Stevie? Friday? Thursday, you back on with me, or?
No, just one this week, apparently, according to the boss man. So, considering I'm barely awake for this one, it's probably for the best. Stayed up and binge watched a Netflix thing last night. So,
what did you watch?
I watched the Vince McMahon thing. Which
I've heard that's pretty good.
Quite interesting. So, I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but I wanted to find out about the kind of other side of it, where he's, the other side of the business kind of thing. It was all right. It was interesting enough, but probably should have been more awake for this than I actually am. So, yeah, don't need to get the kids now until 3, so I'm scheduling in a wee nap somewhere, Derek. So,
yeah, go and get some shut eye, right?
So when am I next on? I don't know. Joshua normally kind of message the night before, doesn't he? Going, can you do me a favour? So we'll see if I pop up later on in the week. And no doubt I'll have to cover next week when you are on your jolly down in London. So, you know what I mean? It's a tough life. Me and Chris just get thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
Me and Chris will just get thrown under the bus as per.
Dearie me. Right, that'll do us there. Right, folks, I don't think there's anything on the Rangers View Extra channel later on. Joshua is off today, but he and Adam should be recording a tactics show at some point later on in the week, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll be back tomorrow alongside Joshua, so we'll speak to you then. Bye for now.